peak body for volunteering in New South Wales. Grow communities and bring people together through volunteering.
You're listening to Let's Talk Volunteering. My name's Ben Hillier, and today we're talking to Linden Regina from St John Ambulance, New South Wales. Hi everyone, my name's Ben Hillier and I'll be your host on this episode of Let's Talk Volunteering. Today we're talking with Linden Regina about implementing the national standards, exemplary volunteer organisation accreditation and volunteer management. Linden is the People and Culture Manager of Volunteer Operations and the Senior Child Wellbeing Officer for St John Ambulance, New South Wales. Her portfolios include child safety, incidents and injury management, and health and safety policies, practice and reporting in the volunteer space. In her role, Linden leads a team and 3,000 volunteer members and is responsible for setting the priorities of this group, as well as managing operations and performance and providing regular and constructive feedback for volunteer members. This episode will cover National Standards 3 and 4 of the volunteering framework and give you some practical ideas as to how your organisation can meet these standards and strengthen your volunteering practice. Linden, would you like to introduce yourself and give a brief overview of the work you do relating to volunteering?
Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate being on this podcast. Look, it's St John Ambulance, New South Wales. It's a very large organisation, as you mentioned, 3,000 volunteers and rapidly growing. We're very proactive within our divisions. We have 72 divisions across New South Wales, and we're spread wide and far because St John Ambulance New South Wales is all about ready to respond. We're not that Band-Aid brigade that some people might think that we are. We're boots on the ground. We're at almost every single event across New South Wales, and we're an organisation that the community can rely on. Part of my portfolio, as you discussed, involves the incident management side. So any incidences that come in, they are investigated according to our complaints and handling policies. St John is all about their policies. We're massive believers and supporters of our child safety policy.
Right.
And that child safety policy is very much engaged into what we do on a daily basis to ensure that our youth and our cadet sections are very much cared and supported for.
Fantastic. So that sounds like a very big role to have for one person. So do you have volunteers supporting that role?
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you a rough idea of the makeup of how the St John motor ticks away, amongst our divisions, we have divisional superintendents. We also have hub leaders that look after the divisional superintendents, and then we have zone leaders. So it's a blanketing system where it's a chain of command. Mm-hmm. Above our zone leaders, we have our deputy commissioners. So we have our Deputy Commissioner of Clinical, Deputy Commissioner of Volunteering, and our Deputy Commissioner of our youth sector. So above that, sits our Commissioner, and we all answer to each other. We all work in with each other, and it's all about communication. Right. You know, to operate a volunteering organisation of 3,000 people, plus the paid recruits that are based in Sydney, that open channel of communication is our most valuable source to be able to ensure that each and every one of our members are supported in the way that they need to be supported. We have a very strong chaplaincy and peer support network as well, and that ties heavily into our incident management side. Going into the child safety side, so at the moment we have 1,070 cadets, of which we're about to add another 13 to that unit by hopefully the end of the week.
Awesome.
Yeah, big numbers, really big numbers. And what we've seen through the history of St John, and the history of St John is just so rich and so valuable. The history of St John has told us that if we engage cadets at an early age, the retention rate of that cadet transitioning into a volunteer adult role is increasingly high. It means that there's a sense of purpose, there's a sense of service, and there's a deep sense of giving back to the community. And as we know, St John, as I said before, is always ready to respond. When we've got that knowledge coming up from our youth sectors, going all the way through to some in the ages of their 80s, being able to give back to the community, it's absolutely invaluable as to the type of work that we can deliver to our communities.
Fantastic. So what sort of roles, activities, tasks, what things do volunteers do at St John's?
So firstly, at St John, we do a lot of training. We do a lot of first aid training. So St John Ambulance New South Wales will train you in first aid. We are very happy to go to organisations on site and perform training there. We also have a large smorgasbord of products that we can deliver to the community, being our AEDs, so our defibrillators, also first aid kits. Look, the list is as long as your arm as to what we can deliver. But on a divisional purpose, we do a lot of training nights, both with our adults and our cadets. I'm actually about to attend a dissection night at Penrith St John in New South Wales, where all the cadets get to dissect frogs and get into all that lovely gooey stuff. And it's lovely to see the cadets being empowered and confident to know that if they encounter a first aid situation, that they've got the knowledge and they've got the confidence to be able to perform that first aid in whatever form or shape that has been presented. From there, with all the training that goes on, and we're talking weekly training within divisions, we are able to deploy ourselves into events around New South Wales. So we can be at music concerts, we can be at the local motocross event, we can go across into fun runs. We've just recently completed a mammoth organisational deployment into the City to Surf in Sydney. Any event, doesn't matter what type of event, St John will be there and ready to respond.
Fantastic. So how do you recruit these volunteers? Particularly, I'd imagine you need quite a large body of people for huge events like the City to Surf. How do you find the volunteers that come to these events and do the other things that you've just talked about?
I mean, firstly, it's a great question. Firstly, it does come down to word of mouth. That's the first thing, because it's amazing the power of the word of the mouth, of getting your organisation out there at your local barbecue, your local church meeting, your local family gathering. And our volunteers are very proud. And you can hear that, you can hear and you can feel how proud our members are to be able to give back to the community. So firstly, word of mouth, absolutely essential. But we're also going way past the word of mouth. We've just recently voiced 4 different recruitment commercials for sponsorship voice logs to be able to be played out on local community radio. The Community Broadcasting Association of Australia has been phenomenal with being able to point us in the right direction of where our community stations are around Australia. So within Australia, last time I checked, we had roughly about 432 community radio stations out there. And being not-for-profit, St John's not-for-profit, we have a very strong collaboration with our fellow community radio stations within New South Wales. We've sent our voice logs out to the radio stations to be able to be played throughout the day and at night and during access shows. We've also got a lot of print media happening as well. We collaborate with local community print networks. We also encourage our members, because nowadays we've all got Facebook, we've all got Insta, we're all across the socials. So again, that's just as strong as the word of mouth. So if we get one member putting one post, an approved St John post, which our marketing and engagement team provides our 3,000 members. Our members are popping it up on their Facebooks. They're promoting it on their Instagram. And the reach of that is incredibly valuable throughout the community, because you're reaching out to your network and your network will reach out to their network. So that's a very powerful means for us to be able to get the word of recruitment out there for both our cadet and our adult sections. We've also designed sort of a lot of, the print media in regards to posters, social tiles. Again, our members have access to all of this to be able to share amongst their social platforms. We have an incredibly empowering CEO by the name of Dominic Teakle. He's got a long career history of supporting the community in every way and form, and he's our driving force. He's our backbone amongst all of our members and amongst our leadership, being our commissioner and our deputy commissioners. So together we collaborate, we communicate, we empower, and we are very proud to say that we instill confidence in each and every one of our members to be able to keep growing our organisation, but also we need to retain. And I think this is where, coming out of COVID, a lot of volunteering organisations have really suffered when it comes to retaining. So we were all sort of a bit stuck at home during COVID, and, what can we do to help our local community? St John was an absolutely pivotal playing part within the COVID-19 pandemic. We had to increase our volunteers. We did that through many different channels. And COVID was over. COVID apparently isn't a thing anymore, although, I have plenty of people around me saying, I've got COVID. Although to this date, I am proud to say, Ben, I have never had COVID.
That's very impressive.
Thank you.
I think I've had it twice. So,
yeah, but look, the whole retention piece, as I said, it's that's the kind of elephant in the room, isn't it, within volunteering? And I find with St John Ambulance New South Wales, we engage our members. We regularly communicate to them via whether it be online newsletter systems, whether it be via email. We really believe in a strong message being delivered from top all the way down to boots on the ground. And we like to celebrate our members. Celebration is such an empowering tool to keep your members connected to your organisation. And when I say that, when there's a birthday, when there's a marriage, when there's a birth, we like to celebrate all those occasions. In particular, I'm going to highlight St John is exceptional at celebrating our membership services. We have some members that have been with us for 60 odd years.
Wow.
And yeah, it's humbling. It's absolutely humbling. And to have that wealth of experience and knowledge, to be able to share that amongst our 3,000 growing members, it's just invaluable. It really is. And that's that joining piece. That's that piece where, because we celebrate every year annually, traditionally around sort of October, November, I think this year it's going ahead in September, we have a massive awards ceremony. It's an honour to attend. We all dress up in our service uniforms, and we celebrate each one of our successes, whether it be a 3 to 5 year tenure, whether that be a 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 60 year tenure of being with St John. It's a recognised event, and St John are very, very proud of our members and what they do for their community.
Absolutely fantastic. And a number of the things you've described are quite structured approaches to recruiting, retaining, recognising volunteers. And I'm curious what kind of role you think being flexible plays in that recruitment and I think general volunteer management process.
Yeah, flexibility, it's a big one. I was always raised with the mentality of, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly, or I won't do it at all. And I think that's the mindset that volunteers need to have. But at the end of the day, things happen in life, and sometimes you do need to step down. But flexibility, it's, we've got a lot of professional people within our organisation. We've got paramedics, we've got doctors, we've got nurses. We have, people that have very sort of, Monday to Friday type jobs. We have a lot of shift workers, and we have a system called DEMS where we put all our events up and volunteers can sign up to those events.
Right.
Now, as we know and we understand, things happen, things get in the way, people get sick, the dog needs to go to the vet. So sometimes we have volunteers pulling out at last minute, and, understandable. But we also have backup volunteers to be able to support our events as well. But with the current flavour of the environment of that recruitment and retainment piece, our view is the more volunteers we can have on board, the more backup we've got for our events to be able to provide our professional services of, again, being ready to respond on the ground at events. So that whole DEMS computer software system is it's very visual. It gives you details of the events, gives you, start times, finish times, debrief times. And we all know that's very important to walk into an event knowing exactly what my role I'm going to play in that event, and also what were our learnings after the event. There's always learnings that come out of every single situation that we are involved in. So the flexibility piece, if we know through communication on the ground with our divisional superintendents, they gauge the availability of our volunteers, and that enables us to be able to knit all of our volunteers into each event that we attend to ensure that we've got enough coverage and that we're delivering our professional service.
Right. And you've mentioned the response of St John's. I'd imagine that sometimes you have the unfortunate situation where you're responding to medical emergencies or unfortunate things have happened at events. How do you help your volunteers work through that, I suppose? Is there a process for if they've got to deal with a medical emergency of some kind or a serious injury, for helping your volunteers debrief, I suppose?
Yeah. It's very real what you've just asked. So when we are subjected to medical emergencies, some of those medical emergencies can be very triggering for some people, and we understand that, absolutely. So this is where all that wonderful knowledge and experience and mentorship comes in to the organisation of St John Ambulance New South Wales, where the divisional superintendent or the event organiser on the ground will take whoever has been affected aside. We will debrief with them. We will debrief with the team. We've also got, as I mentioned earlier, our chaplaincy and our peer support service. They are an amazing supportive network, and they jump in immediately. They're available 24/7, and they always answer their phone to be able to respond in a timely fashion to the mental health and wellbeing needs of our members. And our members, it's broadly known that our chaplaincy and peer support services have always got their door open. And then there's a couple of next levels. So then you've got the peers. So you've got the people and performance and culture team, being myself, looking after and being responsible for all of our volunteers. So if there is an incident, we have what we call an investigations team, all made up of volunteers. So I have 5 senior investigators who have got various skills across many industries. I have a clinical investigator. I have a behavioural, actually I have a few behavioural investigators. And together, when the incidences come in, I suppose triage that incident, and we discuss the best ways and the best people to be able to deal with those incidences. Those incidences are investigated according to our policies. So whatever the incident is, we have a policy for it and we follow the process. And once the process is finished, we advise, respondents and complainants, and it's all documented, it's all filed, and that avoids future by sharing that knowledge, it avoids and cuts down on future incidences, but it also assists us with sharing the knowledge and building our knowledge on the ground as to what we took away from it and how we can do that better in the future.
Right. And turning back to young people and engaging your cadets in the volunteering process, I'm just curious as to how you find those young people in the first place, because you've described quite a comprehensive way of engaging them and making sure they stay involved. But what are your kind of entry points for younger people?
Well, again, we'll go back to word of mouth.
Hmm.
It's amazing, the kids at school in the playground and they go, oh, I'm a St. John cadet and this is what I did on the weekend. And it's that lovely excitement piece, really. It's such a pleasure to be able to witness all of our cadets together because it's such a great bunch of youths. It's the main aim of St. John is to get that recruitment piece out there, be it the word of mouth or be it via the socials. We go into a lot of schools. We do a lot of first aid demonstrations. We're very much of a front face of all the communities around us, New South Wales. And by being seen, by being proud, by being professional, we attract people. We attract the community. The community feels like they have a bond with us. And if you can create that bond at a young age and empower them, give them, develop their capabilities, develop their resistance, their resilience. We want to grow confident people. And when you grow confident people, you're going to grow engagement. And it's a ripple effect, because if you can grow that engagement and empower those members, they're going to want to talk about it a lot more. So it's kind of like that whole full circle thing.
Fantastic. And how do you kind of engage with the national standards of volunteer involvement in your practice as a volunteer manager?
Yeah, top question, Ben. So this all came into the New South Wales volunteering accreditation. St John Ambulance New South Wales was one of the first ones to be accredited under the new standards. I'll be honest, it was an enjoyable process to go through. It really
Glad to
was. It was
hear.
not hard. We just felt we had the support. When you look at something like an accreditation, you think, oh, there's a lot of work. I'm not going to have enough time. Have I got the documents? Firstly, it's a learning piece. It's a real educational piece of what do we have and what do we need to work on. So with the criteria that was offered to us by the Centre of Volunteering, it was very interesting, the actual criteria itself. So it kind of, started off with leadership and management. How do we lead our people? How do we manage our people? What are we doing really, really well? And what can we learn to do better? I guess the 8 criteria is it's a real self-assessment, if anything. So we're able to go through those 8 criteria, and I'll just get across them really quickly, not to bore you, but commitment to volunteer involvement, volunteer roles, recruitment and selection, support and development, workplace safety and wellbeing, volunteering recognition, and quality management and continuous improvement. Each criteria is so important. It's the backbone of your organisation and how well your organisation is going to run. And we found with all of our policies, with all of our position descriptions of superintendents, hub leaders, zone leaders, cadet youth leaders, we found that we aligned really well to the criteria that were on offer. And then we kind of dug a little bit deeper. What do we do in our recognition space? How do we do that? What does that look like? And that actually gave us a few ideas of how we can also continue to develop our celebration of our members, our recognition, how we can recruit better, how can we select better. It's identified small gaps of improvement, which that's the beauty about self-assessment. You get to actually, really look at the nuts and bolts of your machine and enable you to be able to oil it to work smarter and not harder. So the whole accreditation process for us was an absolute dream. I did have questions, I'll be honest. I had plenty of questions. Yeah, the wonderful team at the Centre of Volunteering were just like, sure, Linden, we can help you with that. And they were professional, they were timely. I didn't feel stupid asking my questions. And, some of the questions are probably a little bit desirable in relation to, I just thought I could upload all my documents and bing, bang, boom, but I had to do a bit of extra work on that one. But as in bringing the whole accreditation piece together, it was seamless. It was
Brilliant.
it was such a strengthening process for St John Ambulance New South Wales to go through. And I strongly encourage every organisation out there to jump onto the Centre of Volunteering and ask the question. Just reach out. That's all you've got to do to be able to start to engage in that accreditation process. And that accreditation process is going to give you that beautiful bow or that beautiful cherry at the top of the pie to say that we are, as an organisation, meeting the national standards of volunteering. And that's how we're going to thrive. That's how we're going to keep recruiting, keep retaining, and keep our boots on the ground and letting New South Wales know that St John Ambulance New South Wales, we're there. We're ready to respond.
Fantastic. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything else around any of these topics that we've talked about today you'd like to comment on?
Not at this stage. I found this very enjoyable. I sincerely thank the Centre of Volunteering for the opportunity to be able to give St John Ambulance a voice out there, in particular when it comes to this accreditation. Please, if you haven't looked at what you need to do to be accredited, grab a cuppa, sit down, have a look, reach out, ask the questions, because trust me, it's not a hard process to go through. If it's anyone that's going to whinge about paperwork, it'll be me, and I didn't whinge once.
Fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that. I really appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us this afternoon as well, Linden. So what can people do if they want to find out more about St John Ambulance New South Wales?
There's plenty of things they can do. So it all depends on what type of person you are. Are you a phone person? Are you an email person? Are you a website person? Look, that's all completely up to you. But may I suggest that if you're a phone person, that you would give us a call, and you can find all of the details on the St John New South Wales website. Please feel free to jump in there. There's so much information, there's so much history about the organisation, and we're always ready to answer your questions and to direct you down the right path of being able to become a valued volunteer member of St John Ambulance New South Wales.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for your time, Linden. I hope the listeners have found today's show interesting and enlightening, and I look forward to seeing you all on our next episode. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Voices of Volunteering, presented by the Centre for Volunteering. For resources, tools, training and news, head over to our website volunteering.com.au.